Good evening. Good evening, folks. Could I have your attention, please? Pardon me for interrupting all this great conversation. I'd like to get the show on the road, and we appreciate the Celtics not scheduling a game for tonight. And I won't even wait for Charlie Titus to take his seat. He's still working the room. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Mccluskey. I'm the Associate Director of Athletics here at UMass Boston. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening to celebrate the legacy of excellence that all of our honorees represent. You know, it's hard to believe that it was 4 years ago when we last gathered in this space. Of course, if you're anything like me, it's hard to recall anything that happened before the world turned upside down in 2020. One thing has remained constant, though. That is, in 2018, the Red Sox had just beaten the Yankees. And then, in perfect symmetry, last night, of course, the Celtics took a giant Euro step forward to possibly winning the World Championship. So let us hope. And by the way, those Warriors are not to be confused with the Boston State Warriors, who might put up more of a fight. I'd like to begin by thanking the Hall of Fame Committee for its conscientious work, buttressed as always by our resident historian, Dave Wahlberg. And I'd like the Hall of Fame Committee to stand and be recognized, please. They're all very shy. I know they are. Yeah. Coach Harris. Stop pointing. And a special round of kudos to the guy who puts all of this together and somehow manages to keep it together himself, and that is our jack-of-all-trades colleague, Dave Masters. Dave, thank you. Great job, as always. Dave would call me and say, people are still registering. We'd throw up our hands, say, that's great. There's a terrific crowd here tonight. And let me add a grateful note of thanks to our generous sponsors, and in particular, to our great friends in the UMass Boston Alumni Association, represented here by the Alumni Association President, Donna Marie McGuire. Donna, thank you. Donna and her husband, Kevin, or as I call him, her valet, are a constant positive presence at all things UMass Boston, and we appreciate it. And the same can be said for Jim and Marie O'Sullivan, especially during Jim's tenure as the Alumni Association president. So much appreciated to both of those great couples. And finally, given the extended family nature of this gathering, I also want to welcome our colleague, Betty Ann Collins, back to campus. So Betty Ann, thank you for joining us. Great to see you again. Betty Ann, by the way, I have an invoice from 1996 that I'm wondering if you could take care of. That's an inside joke that didn't go over well at all. But anyone who knows me knows that that's the case, usually. But we have a great program of celebration tonight, and we will begin in high style with welcoming remarks from a person who is overseeing her first Hall of Fame celebration. She herself was a member of the Division I track team at Vanderbilt University, from where she most recently received her doctorate just a few weeks ago, adding to her bachelor's from Vandy and a master's degree from UNC Chapel Hill. She brings an extensive record of extraordinary success in advancing issues of excellence and equity in athletics and beyond, and she has a clear vision for how she intends to lead our Division of Athletics and Recreation forward. You know, given all that we've been through, and I do mean all of us, and continue to grapple with, every organization, particularly now, needs a leader who can simultaneously bring empathy, inspiration, and innovation to their work. And we are very fortunate to have just such a leader as our new Director of Athletics and Recreation. So please give a warm Beacons welcome to Dr. Jackie Schumann. Thank you.
Welcome, Warriors and Beacons. I am both humbled and honored to serve as the leader of this department. And I'm so proud to be here to kick off today's celebration with all of you. I am especially thankful that after a significant pause to this event, we can be back together in person and share time with one another again. UMass Boston is a very special place with meaning to so many people, as was and is Boston State College. We hold a unique space in higher education in Boston as the only four-year public research institution in the city, provide an affordable education to people of all backgrounds, and serve a community where the majority of our students are first-generation college students. In my first year here, I have learned just how important this institution is to our students, alumni, their families and friends, and to this community. A great part of that importance is the place of sports as a critical part of that higher education experience. Like many of you who competed here, our student athletes receive an education through sports and their teams that is as critical and meaningful as the education they receive in the classroom. We are building character in our student athletes and preparing them for life. I have heard it said before that sports is amongst the most important of the unimportant things. During a troubling time in our society, when we need the most important of the unimportant things, our return to sports this year at UMass Boston has meant so much more than any of us could ever have imagined. The wins mean more. The camaraderie from the team provides a support that we all need. The mentorship from coaches helps many of our student athletes get through the day. I am proud to be able to share all that we have accomplished this year on a day that we honor so many of you for the legacy that you have left through your accomplishments. We have had a very successful year in UMass Boston athletics. Our greatest success of the year was returning our 18 teams to full competition in a healthy way, and I think that deserves a round of applause after these last 2 years. Some of the highlights of our team and department successes this year include all of our fall, winter, and spring teams advanced to compete in conference tournament or playoff competition this year. We had 3 Little East Conference team champions and 2 Little East individual champions. We had 2 Little East head coaches of the year. The men's basketball team hosted the first ever Black Collegiate Coaches Classic, which featured 4 of just 7 Black head coaches in the state of Massachusetts and an all-Black officiating crew, an event that showed the importance of representation of leadership for Black men in coaching and sports. Men's ice hockey players Jake Atkins and Andy Walker were named finalists for the Humanitarian Award for the second straight year for their work with Men in Blades, which has now raised over $31,000 to support the American Cancer Society. And Gil Duvall was the winner of the prestigious National Yardley Reynolds Love Unsung Hero Award, an award named after the young women's lacrosse player from the University of Virginia who lost her life to gender violence. We are proud of all of these successes and so many more that occurred throughout the year, and we're looking forward to what's next to come in athletics. As a department, we have spent this year working on building out our strategic plan, and in the future, I am looking forward to sharing those priorities that come out of that process that we will focus on for the next 5 to 10 years. 3 of those priorities are enhancement and building of our facilities, continuously striving for gender equity, and building a holistic performance model to support the ever-changing wellness needs of our student athletes. And as one of our greatest priorities, we continue to think about and work on how we can enhance our current facilities and build future facilities. For our teams to continue to have success and our student athletes to proudly reach their potential, that improvement is necessary. Our students work really hard to balance school, athletics, and often take on jobs to support their families. And we want them to feel they are a part of a home they can embrace and feel comforted in when they come to UMass Boston. My hope is that, like so many of you, all of our student athletes will be able to look back fondly on the time that they have had here, and while knowing it shaped who they've become, that they will also know that their contributions to this program has shaped what it will be in the future. We were so honored this year to see that shaping through a gift from Hall of Famer and former Boston State College hockey and baseball player Dan Ray to renovate our varsity training facility. This gift honored the legacy that was built through the original Jack Dowling weight room and enhanced our space with the opening of the new Dan Ray 70 Boston State College varsity training facility. Dan Ray also gave to establish the first ever athletics enhancement endowment, which became the first endowment in the history of athletics. There is great importance of this endowment as it helps us sustain and upkeep our facilities and continue to provide the best opportunities for our student athletes. Dan's quote that adorns the room captures the importance of tonight's ceremony so well. It reads, "Athletics improve our world because whatever our differences, fair competition fosters mutual respect both on and off the fields of play." We thank all of you for your contributions to athletics at UMass Boston, and I can't wait to honor you tonight. Before we go into tonight's ceremony, I'd like to recognize a few important groups. We have approximately 25 former Hall of Fame inductees members here tonight. Would you please all stand to be recognized? One of our Hall of Fame members tonight includes the former Vice Chancellor, Charlie, please stand up, for Athletics, Recreation, and Special Programs and Projects, Charlie Titus. I'd like to also recognize and thank our Boston State College and UMass Boston alumni who are in attendance tonight. And I would like to recognize and ask all of our head coaches in the audience to stand. Our head coaches have been the backbone for our student athletes this entire year and throughout these really challenging last 2 years, and we are so thankful for all you all have done. Now I'd like to invite our Deputy Chancellor, Garrett Smith, to say a few words on behalf of the Chancellor and our university. Oh my God.
Welcome, everyone. Congratulations to the new inductees. And thank you, Jackie, for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. This is pretty embarrassing, actually, because when you asked me to speak, I thought you asked if I could represent the Chancellor during his induction into the Hall of Fame. And I thought, well, he's a new Chancellor, so he's already being inducted? What's that all about? It was super confusing for me. And I thought about it, I thought about it, and then it clicked. He's Argentinian. This is about soccer. And so I decided, well, if I'm supposed to represent soccer on stage, then maybe I'm supposed to get up here and do some moves. So I've been practicing my juggling. And now it's clear that that's not really what you wanted me to do. So I guess instead, I will share a few messages on behalf of our Chancellor, Marcelo Suarez Orozco. First, this is such an exciting time for the university. We're finalizing our strategic plan that outlines the vision for the next 10 years of our university. We are finishing the quad project in the middle of our campus, literally stabilizing the foundation of this campus. We just launched our new brand. Check it out. The tagline is "For the Times." I'll say one word about that, which is, in short, we feel that UMass Boston is perfectly positioned at this moment in time to address the vexing issues of our times in Boston, in the Commonwealth, and in the world. We are Boston's only public research university, the most diverse university in New England. We are a university focused on areas such as racial justice, climate sustainability, community development, workforce development, health policy, and basic science. We believe that right now, in these times, what the world needs is more UMass Boston. So we think this is a really exciting moment. That's point number one. Number two, athletics is such a critical piece of the fabric of the university. I'm continuously struck by the ability of our student athletes and our administrators and our coaches to model excellence and integrity for the rest of our campus, both in sport, but also in the hallways, in the classrooms, and in the community. Just one example. This year, Jackie's team re-articulated their core values. These include statements like, "As beacons, we embrace the challenge," or we overcome challenges with enthusiasm, grit, innovation, and creativity," or "We take pride in the platform of sport to improve the lives of individuals and communities." These are incredible value statements. I'm so impressed with this work. This clear articulation of the division's values make them easier to understand, easier to learn, and easier to teach. I've been encouraging other parts of the university, other divisions within our campus, to articulate and adopt similar values in their work. This is just one small example of how our student athletes and our athletics division are modeling leadership for the rest of the university. My third and final message is this: the future of our university is tightly connected to our past. It's of note that our original mission, forged in the civic and political turbulence of the 1960s to be a university of and for the city of Boston, continues to guide and inspire our work today. The same is true of our people. It is the people of UMass Boston's past that provide the foundation upon which we stand. We are deeply indebted to so many student athletes and athletics administrators, including past inductees and those new inductees who we honor tonight. Thank you for your leadership and contributions, which continue to help UMass Boston win championships as well as lead change in our community. Thank you so much for your time. Please enjoy the evening. Well, and I just thought, since I'm up here and I practice so much, then maybe I just give this a shot. Sorry, Pete. Sorry, Amy. Here we go. I'm going to go for 25 here. And if you can give me a little help, we'll see what I can do. All right? All right. Never done this in front of so many people. All right, one more. It's tough if you're all watching. One more, Jackie, one more. Is my time up? Thank you.
I ran track, so we don't deal with balls or bats or any of those things, so I can't do that. But okay, so I would like to now invite up our Little East Conference Commissioner, Pam Samuelson, who will present the Little East Conference Hall of Fame Award to Eileen Fenton, class of '91.
Good evening. It is definitely my pleasure to be here tonight. I'm coming back. I was actually here from 1998 to 2003. Had the privilege of serving on Charlie's staff during that time, and I can tell you that UMass Boston really holds a special place in my heart, so I'm grateful to be here tonight to honor Eileen. The Little East Conference Hall of Fame had its first induction class back in 2012. And presently, there are 93 individuals in the Hall of Fame, which speaks to how special this recognition is. Eileen Fenton was the second player in conference history to be named All-LEC in 3 seasons of her career. She was a Little East Conference Player of the Year in 1989-90, averaging 18.6 points a game and 15.2 rebounds a game. She is currently the only female in UMass Boston history to have her number retired. And she is a very deserving and incredible new addition to the Hall of Fame. So Eileen Fenton, come on up. The newest member of the LEC Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I was hoping to get out of speaking, but Dr. Schumann twisted my arm. Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate this honor. I want to start by thanking my amazing family and my friends who support me in my life. And special thanks to my partner, Michael Knievi, who proudly calls himself a triple beacon and loves and supports me every day. So I thank you. I stand before you tonight. I'm absolutely filled with gratitude and having the great fortune of being part of this UMass community. Like many of my college mates here, I wasn't the typical college student. I was born and raised just down the street in Dorchester. I'm the daughter of immigrant parents, and I, with my siblings, were the first in my family to attend college. While at UMass, I was a full-time student. I played basketball, and I hustled a couple jobs because I had to. And while I occasionally do dream about what it would have been like to play hoop and study solely, I feel with all of my heart that my college career was perfect here. It was perfect because, while atypical elsewhere, I was the prototype of the UMass student. And all of that hustle and scurrying about worked because UMass Boston embraced and made a place for that, the hard-scrambled Dorchester kid. I'm going to work my tail off and get there against the odds student. That's all of us. That's a familiar story, I think, to a lot of us in this room. My gratitude for having been nurtured and fostered by this place still regularly fills my heart. I'm grateful to my awesome teammates, to our very small team. I'm grateful for leaders like Charlie Titus, absolute rock star. Thank you. Who would always find a way, talking about Charlie, to divert the wealth, sneakers, shirts, and the swag that the men's team often got to me and many of the women's basketball team. He would watch out for us and support us all the time, bar none. I have no doubt that coming to school here at UMass Boston completely changed the arc of my life for the better. I left here, I attended Boston University, I received a master's degree, and then furthered my education again by attending Suffolk Law School with a full-time day job. And I went to law school nights. Old habits die hard, I guess. As a result of all that, I have a legal career that I'm happy in and proud of. But the point is that the arc and the ingredients that I needed to succeed came from this wonderful place. I love this place. I will never be able to give back to the place what this place has given to me and the people who care about me. But I will offer you all the most heartfelt thank you. Dr. Schumann, thank you. And hopefully I can continue to give back to this wonderful establishment. Thank you, and thank you, UMass Boston.
Thank you, Eileen. Michelle, we'd like to have you come up to the stage. And Eileen and Michelle, if you don't mind taking a seat while I say a few words. Thank you. So if you haven't noticed, we're about to get into a panel discussion. That's what's being set up right now. So on June 23rd, 2022, we will celebrate the 50th anniversary of the landmark legislation of Title IX. Title IX legislation made it a law for women to have access to equal opportunities in sport through educational institutions. While I was not an original recipient of Title IX, I can't imagine what my life would look like without it. With it, my dad, who, like many people here, is a Hall of Fame inductee himself as a coach, would likely have not been able to encourage me to play sports in the way that he did, a thing that forever changed my life and influenced my courage, leadership, and endurance. I remember participating in cheerleading, I can't even say it, cheerleading, which I admit I have pretty fond memories of, and at the same time in sports. My dad told me that he wanted people to cheer for me, not just me to cheer for them. And those words influenced me, and they mattered. And so I slowly made the switch to competing fully in sports. If Title IX didn't exist, that opportunity would likely not have been possible in the same way. And I would likely not be standing here today as your Director of Athletics and Recreation. Access to sport for girls and women has forever changed our society. It's another way that we see the power of what sports can do to influence people and communities. And it's an important part of how we continue to build more leaders in the world, as we know sport has the ability to develop great leaders. Today, we wanted to take some time to learn from some of the women in sports who have benefited from Title IX, with a Hall of Famer who you just met, Eileen Fenton, and a recipient of the Hall of Fame, Michelle Stevenson, through the legacy of her dad, Mac Singleton. As we kick off our Hall of Fame ceremony inductions this year, we feel it's important to commemorate this anniversary at an event that honors the legacies built through sport, as Title IX has expanded that legacy and the power of sport. Michelle and Eileen, thank you for being with us tonight, and we will kick off our panel discussion. Testing. Okay.
Test.
All right, we're mic'd. Okay, great. All right, so I'm just going to kick it off with, what does Title IX mean to you as a former female athlete and women in sports? And Michelle, we'd like you to start.
Thank you so much for having me here today. And I'd have to say, I was thinking about this question when you sent it, and I was an early recipient of this benefit, this privilege, right, to actually be able to play. And I remember, even though it was newly being passed and processed, I still didn't have access. There weren't girls' teams. And the boys' team, they wouldn't let us play. So I was constantly trying to find a place to play. And I loved basketball. That was my sport. So I think that being a beneficiary, I can see along the way how much more access I had, the opportunities. And my dad was huge and instrumental in making sure that I got access to the camps and to go play in places where I could really advance my skills. So that's what it means to me.
Can you share what you're currently doing?
Yes, I am the Department Chair of Student Health and Wellness at the Kemp Place School in Summit, New Jersey, and I have the privilege of working with about 660 girls in that school to empower them and help them advance the world, which is what we do every single day with the leadership skills that we develop. And one of the things we do in one of the vehicles is actually athletics, and we focus really intently on that.
Thank you. So Eileen, what does Title IX mean to you as a former female athlete and women in sports?
Thank you. So I think we all know that Title IX profoundly changed education by barring sex discrimination in schools. The ripple effect of that, as we all know, is why we're here today as female athletes. And the ripple effect is that it forced the issue that we need the same equality in the sports arena. I like to look at it even further. The ripple effect goes much further than that. I read a stat recently, and I've been reading a little bit about this recently, and there's an extraordinary stat that 95% of all Fortune 500 CEOs played college sports. 95%. That's no coincidence. Now, that's all Fortune 500 CEOs. As it specifically relates to women, there was a study done by Ernst & Young, and women executives, and they found that 90% of those sampled play sports. And among those sampled, 96% of them held C-suite executive positions in companies. That's no coincidence, and it's irrefutable what Title IX did for women in the workplace, in society. I mean, it's extraordinary. When I read that, I had to read it a few times, and I said, wow. So if that isn't reason to tell our little girls, tell our nieces, granddaughters, sports is important. It's great to get out there and compete and learn all the things that sports treat us, but when you look at statistics like that, it's irrefutable what Title IX did for us as women in the workforce.
Thank you. What would you say is the importance of celebrating Title IX at an event like this, where we're inducting Hall of Fame members from Boston State College and UMass Boston? And for people that are attending today, why is it important to be having this discussion and celebrating this anniversary?
Yeah, I mean, it's hugely important. We've come a long way, but I think we all know that we need to do a little better, and we can do a little better. I think recently, a couple of the higher profile cases, we've seen the women's soccer team who just won a settlement for equal pay. The women's basketball Olympic team, there was an interesting, I think we all saw it, that, the women's basketball team went to the weight room for the Olympics, and there was a set of dumbbells in the corner. And one of the women on the team had the foresight, and she went out on social media and said, this is our weight room. This is where we work out to prepare for the Olympics. She went across the hall to the men's sports workout room, and it was like, it would rival Equinox. I mean, it was fabulous. And, and I hate to even mention Steph Curry's name tonight, but you gotta love him, whatever you think about him. But he, to his 16+ million followers, he went out and said, "Are you kidding me with this?" And that's all he had to say. He forwarded the video. So I think for this room, there's a lot of men in the room, and my experience in this community is I've been fortunate. I'm friends with a lot of the Boston State guys, and it's important that we have your support, and we do, and I feel it, and I think it's wonderful. I'm grateful for that. But for all the young women in the room and all the student athletes that might be here, understand how important it is that sports is in your life and what it will give you as you move forward in life.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Michelle, in your role as a mentor and coach to the young women at Kent Place, are they facing some of the same challenges that you faced as a young student athlete, or how has that potentially changed?
And I was thinking about this one too, and I said yes. And I think one of the ways is, again, access, right? Access to top-level equipment, coaches, facilities. That is still something that I see there's a difference. Like when we go to, we call it our brother school, it's completely different, especially in the area of athletics and physical education. And so when I see what they work with, things that are maybe not top of the line or as up to date, they figure out a way. So I love them because they're so scrappy, right? And they have to get, find and claim their resources. So so the other side of that is like, they unapologetically take up space. And they will stand in their power positions and ask for things. And they challenge us as the leaders in the school to ensure that we get it for them. And so the events like this is really important. It's like a gentle reminder of what was the path that was laid so that we can be where we are today. And sometimes young folks don't even know what Title IX is. So we actually did a whole assembly on it earlier this year, and it was very interactive, and we noticed that a lot of the students didn't even know the history of Title IX.
So Eileen, you've talked a lot about, the impact that you've seen on Title IX in sports. You talked about it at the college level and the impact, obviously, at the professional level. How do you see the game has changed in basketball from the time that you were playing here to now?
Yeah, it was a different place since when I was here. I was trying to think. I said, geez, it wasn't that long ago when I was here. Then I realized when I graduated, I said, geez, that was a really long time ago. When I was here from 87 to 91, there were times where we only had 7 players. We'd be on the road, and the bus would be filled with more support staff and coaches and athletic trainers than players. The silver lining is I got a lot of playing time, so that was good. Probably contributed to my stats and getting into the Hall of Fame, so I'm grateful for that. But it's definitely a different time. And right now, I've come to some games, and I even noticed the uniforms. Right, my uniform did not fit me right. It was not a good thing. And it was too short, and and I will say, folks like Charlie Titus and Rodney Hughes and some other champions of this university were always cognizant of the fact. And I joked around earlier that Charlie would always pass me some swag, and he did. He was always aware of, the guys do get the cool stuff, and here, take some, really a trailblazer for us. But in terms of how it's different, structurally it's different. Excuse me, structurally it's different. Holistically it's different. I think the whole program about, when I was playing here, I literally was hustling in the gym from working after having been in school. I'm literally tying up my sneakers, running into practice, out the door to probably working nights somewhere. Right now, it's such a better environment. They have weights. It's part of the program. You had to do strength training. That didn't even exist. I did some push-ups maybe, and that was about it. The nutrition aspect, the academic support, so you don't have to do what I did, hustling and trying to fit everything in and running late for everything. So it's definitely better. And I think this university has done a great job in really elevating women's athletics and making it a real wonderful program and a wonderful thing to be part of. And I'm not complaining, trust me. I just wanted to play basketball, so I didn't really care what I had on. But I look back now, and sometimes I go to the games, I'm like, wow, look at those cool sweatsuits they have on and all this, and thinking back what I had. But it's great. It's come a long way, and it's all good. It really is wonderful.
So for both of you, are there any last words you'd like to share about the importance of how we continue to advance opportunities for girls and women in sports that you would like people in the audience to hear, both men and women?
Yeah, no, I just think keep doing what we're doing. I feel like we're making really good progress. I'm happy with the progress. I'm happy with the opportunities that I have been given as a woman, as an athlete, and I look forward to paying it forward. If I can help other young women advance and understand the importance of these opportunities and participating in sports, I'm all in. So I think it's great.
And I would love to invite all of you to like a call to action, and find someone that you can support. To find a young girl, go to a game, right? Cheer them on. That's one of the things that I love when our teams are playing, when the stands are full. It means so much to them. So find a young woman in your life and support them. Okay, so that would be my call to action and my last couple words to everyone here. And thank you in advance for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both for your time. Thank you. Thank you again for being here for that important discussion. I would like to, at this time, ask Kevin Mccluskey, our Master of Ceremonies, to come back up to the stage so we can start the induction ceremony.
Eileen, I thought Michael was going to do karaoke. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jackie and Eileen and Michelle for those inspirational words. We appreciate that. I do have to note now at the, I mentioned 2018's program earlier, and in our program tonight, for some reason, there isn't a listing of the 2018 honorees. So I don't think I can be publicly fired, but I do apologize for it, and want to note to Kevin McLean and Richie Craven, who are both in that class, that we will fix that when the program goes online. So I just wanted to note that. It was a great event in 2018, and this is a terrific follow-up. I'd also like to note at the outset that Ryan Walsh is in our program, but he reached out to me and let me know that he was unable to join us this evening, unfortunately, but again, you can see his impressive accomplishments as an All-American baseball player for Coach Egerbrot in the program. So I ask you to take a look at that. So our first group of honorees this evening recorded 10 All-American performances and 4 national champions in 3 separate events. They were not only dominant multi-year national champions in Division III, but also gave the Division I University of Illinois a run for their money at the historic Penn Relays. They feared no opponent. They were equal to every challenge. And other teams had to get used to reading the numbers on these runners' backs as they tried to keep up. You know, it's funny, many of their photos adorn the walls outside of Jackie's office, which was formerly Charlie's office. And these are still photos, but they look fast even in these still photos. And I had to smile when I saw Murtonda Durant's photo as she led the pack in this photo in great beacon style with a gold necklace and gold hoop earrings. Like she just happened to stop by the track, to finish first on her way to something else. And I know that Murtonda's family and teammates and friends are here, and I know that they continue to hold her in their hearts. So we appreciate that. So we are very proud to begin this evening by welcoming the 1987 UMass Boston women's track and field team and their coaches to the Hall of Fame class of 2022. Ladies, please join us on the stage.
Good evening. I am Janessa Edens, a member of this wonderful team. I'm also the head men's and women's cross-country track and field coach for my alma mater, UMass Boston. We are the best university in the country. It's been a quiet secret, but we have arrived, and we're only going forward. Our Deputy Chancellor said, or commented on us being for the time is now. We are, on behalf of all of my teammates, those who couldn't be here, we want to thank you immensely from the bottom of our hearts for the support that you've shown us over the years. When we were here as little tykes, and now we around the middle, but we're still here supporting. Thank you very much. Can't say enough. Charlie Titus, you know we love you. You're the godfather, so we'll always give you much respect. Jackie, I see you sitting in the corner. I'm excited about the direction that we're going because, as I said, we're going up. We are for the time. The time is now. 6 degrees of separation. Robert, I'm going to ask you to stand up. This is Robert Cannon. He's an incoming freshman. He is the brother of Jimmy Cannon. Mark my words, he is your next All-American. He is your next national champion. He is your next Hall of Famer. Robert, us women right here set it up for you. Sherman.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank UMass Boston and the Hall of Fame committee for this award. Secondly, I'd like to thank my team and my coaches for what only could be described as a tremendous run. Their first 4 or 5 attempts at national championships, this core group right here won 4 of them. They won their first one as freshmen. But what's truly amazing about this team is that, believe it or not, we never once practiced on an indoor track. So there was no Reggie Lewis, there was nothing. So they won 3 indoor championships and never once touched the indoor track. This group persevered. They ran in hallways, they ran in the catwalk. That was a failure, the catwalk. We ran in garages, we ran in basements, we ran at the YMCA. And the greatest thing about this group, as I reflect, they never once complained about where we had to practice. I just told them the time and the place, and they showed up. And that hard work paid off at the end because we ended up winning the 4 national championships with the combination of this last one in 1987. We were all trying to figure out where we were, but we remember Charlie got us 3 limousines because we couldn't get vans, so that was the best one, Charlie. That was definitely the best one. So once again, I just like to thank everyone for this award. I particularly like to thank Jeff and the team. Matanda, who's no longer with us, was instrumental to this team. Janessa, all these ladies here scored. So again, thank you ladies for what I consider a great run.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you very much, Coach, and congratulations again to your incredible team. Our next honoree was also someone that opponents did not like to see on the other side of the lacrosse or football field. One of the most talented players to ever wear the green and gold, he was an All-New England and All-Colonial League All-Star for 3 straight years on Coach Webb's lacrosse squad. And by the way, I'll interrupt this because Coach Webb is here this evening. Coach, legendary Coach Webb. I pointed that out to some of the guys. That's Coach Webb. I've heard his name mentioned so often with great respect. And for our honoree on Coach Mac Singleton's football team, he was a punishing fullback that enjoyed letting the guys on the other side of the ball know that his team meant business. You know, and in a note I received today from one of his teammates who regretted that he could not join in the chorus of congratulations this evening, his teammate said that our honoree played a powerful game with great determination and was a threat to change the game every time he was on the field. And he added he was also a very level-headed teammate on and off the field. So with that heartfelt tribute from Mike Burke in mind, we are proud to induct Marty Doto into the Hall of Fame class of 2022.
I wrote this kind of large, but I still need glasses, so give me a second here. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for nominating me for this prestigious award. With so many other outstanding award winners, as well as the Hall of Fame committee, Jim Collins, Dick Kelly, for all the hard work they do. I'd like to thank the people that came with me tonight, my wife, my sister, my brother-in-law, and I see many football players and lacrosse players out there. I was fortunate enough to play with these young men at the time. They're old men now, like me. A group of men on the football and lacrosse team. Few of us played both. Many played one sport. However, I was lucky to play for Coach Singleton. And he not only pushed you to the limit, he pushed you beyond the limit. At times, you'd almost say, this is ridiculous. I can remember one time at Daly Field, we had practice, and the gates weren't open. It is now Simmons College owns the field down by the, where is it, Charles River. It's a beautiful field. At the time, Daly Field was not such a beautiful field. It had gates on it, and it was locked. It was a Monday practice. So someone who was here tonight said, we're not going to wait around anymore. He decided to drive his car through the gates. Coach Singleton, when he found out, that obviously wasn't the right thing to do, we did crabs for almost 2 hours, literally 2 hours on a football field. Now, we didn't have full equipment, and it was only helmets because it was a Monday after a football game, but I can rest assured that no one would ever run their car through a set of gates again. I mean, people were just puking and falling all over the place. It was unbelievable. So he pushed you to the limit, and we're lucky to have a coach like Coach Singleton. I was also lucky to have another coach, Coach Webb, in lacrosse. He prepared us to compete at the highest level all the time. Whether we won or lost the game, at the end of the game, we sprinted. It didn't matter, we sprinted. Luckily, we won most of the game, so it wasn't too bad to sprint at the end of the games. There was many times we were in tournaments. For all 3 years I was there, we played Middlebury, Bowdoin, Williams College, and Coach Webb always had to remind us to watch our P's and Q's when playing up there. In other words, keep your Bow State tendencies repressed. And I think some of my teammates here might know what I'm talking about. However, like I said, Coach Webb prepared us always to compete at the highest level, and as a result, we were in a lot of tournaments and we came in first place a lot, so it was enjoyable playing for Coach Webb. Boston State College gave most of the people in this room that went to Boston State a great education for a great price, and I'm not ashamed to say that I think I paid $150 a semester back in 1972. It was $150. Books were, I think, more expensive even back then. But once again, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, all the other Hall of Fame recipients for this enjoyable evening, and congratulations to all the people in this room. Thank you.
Marty. Congratulations. Thanks very much, Marty. Congratulations. So our next honoree was the first volleyball player in Little East Conference history to be named a 4-time first-team All-Star, a Rookie of the Year, and a 3-time Offensive Player of the Year. And in case you're wondering, she was also a 3-time All-American selection, including the first and only Beacon player to be selected as a first-team All-American. Under Coach Condon, she led the team to the 2010 and 2012 East Regional Championship and on to the NCAA National Championship Tournament. Known to many as the Hammer, we are thrilled to induct Shannon Thompson into the Hall of Fame class of 2022.
First off, I want to say congratulations to all the other inductees here tonight. It is quite a feat to not only be a student athlete, but to produce results consistently at a high level, and to be recognized for those accomplishments. So congrats. My time at UMass was a special one, not only for making lifelong friends and meeting a lifelong partner, but for all the memories that came in between volleyball, school, and running around Boston. I owe a lot of thanks to many special people for keeping me together and helping me accomplish so much during my time here. Thank you to Terry, Mike, and all my coaches for pushing me, for believing in me, and for helping shape who I am today. I truly appreciate all that you did for me in college. As a college coach now, I can understand more why you did the things you did. Thank you for all the hard work you put into the program to make it great. To the head coaches at UMass during my time, thank you for always supporting me and letting me chat with you. I spent countless hours sitting and chatting with many of you. You not only listened to me, but you also helped to shape the coach that I am today. So thank you. Thank you to my family, Mom, Dad, Maria, Desi, Alicia, Lindsay, Jim, Aunt Chris, and Aunt Deb. Thank you for guiding me through life and helping me along my journey through college and post-grad life. I am truly blessed to have such amazing people in my corner. My friends, especially Bryson, Ren, Michaela, Keeks, and Kristen, thank you for cheering me on wherever I am. Thank you for being there for me through the good and the bad, and for all the amazing memories we have made. For my teammates, I would not be up here if it weren't for them. Volleyball is a team sport through and through. Not one person can carry a team. I truly believe that the coaches piece together the best teams possible. And I am so thankful to have gone through 4 years with some amazing teammates who I am lucky to still call friends. And finally, Marvin, I would not be where I am today if you hadn't come into my life. UMass not only gave me my lifelong friends and memories, but UMass brought us together. You have pushed me, guided me, and helped me be the best version of myself in all aspects of my life. I would not be up here if you did not convince me hill sprints were a good idea in the dead of summer. You always encouraged me to go the extra mile and to push myself beyond what I believe is possible. Thank you for being my rock and doing life with me. Thank you, UMass and the Hall of Fame Committee, for not only this recognition, but giving me lifelong memories and friendships. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Would that we all had a nickname as cool as the Hammer, right? We won't go into any of my nicknames, Our next honoree is one of the founding members of the UMass Boston men's hockey program. A 1981 New England Collegiate Conference first team selection, he wore the C on his sweater twice and was named the team's MVP in 1981. He led the team to its first ever conference tournament championship in 1982 and holds a solid place in the Beacon's record books. You know, perhaps all you need to know about the level of esteem and respect that his teammates and Coach Belisle have for him is that every year at the team banquet, the award given to the most valuable player is named in his honor. So we are thrilled to induct Dennis Doherty into the UMass Boston Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2022.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to thank the selection committee and Director of Athletics and Recreation, Jackie Schumann. Also want to thank Mr. Titus. How you doing, Mr. Titus? Thank you very much. Great to see you again. I want to thank Kevin as well for running a great program here. And I want to thank Dave Marsters, and I want to thank Dick Kelly, who couldn't make it tonight. Special thanks to Dick. He's been awesome, not only for tonight for me, but previously he helped the 82 team get inducted back in 2005. I'd also like to congratulate all of my fellow inductees, all right? How great is this, right? This is a great night, isn't it? Awesome, awesome, awesome night. So humbling and so exciting. It's just very, very, you know, it's just a thrill to be here for me. You know, I've always been a team first kind of guy, and tonight is no exception. I consider this a team award. And I've had some great team behind me growing up, a great team of family, a great team of teammates, and they really deserve all the credit and all the thanks. First off, I'd like to thank my parents, my mom, who could not be here tonight, and my dad, who passed away 7 years ago. They were always very supportive of me, not only playing hockey, but in life in general. And they made the sacrifices that great parents make to help their kids get ahead. And my sister, my brother, and I all benefited from it. And speaking of my siblings, I want to thank my sister Nancy, who's been a great inspiration to me over the years. She's done an excellent job taking care of my mom now. I want to thank my brother Mike, the world's best brother, always had my back. My sister-in-laws, Maureen and Andrea, more like sisters to me. They've been great. I want to thank them for their friendship and support throughout the years. My nieces and nephews are all here tonight. Katie, Julia, Jack, Scotty, and Matthew. My brother-in-law, Mark. Thank you so much, folks, for really supporting your Uncle Den. Really appreciate that. My son, Dennis, he's been a great source of pride for me and my wife, Janice. He did great in school, although it was at Stonehill. He still did great. And he never gave us 1 ounce of trouble growing up. That's it, good boy. And most recently, really, in a kind of like a role reversal type of thing, he actually got me a terrific job. So thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. The person I want to thank the most is my wife. We've been together since I was 17. You're the best, dearie. Love you. Now, as I mentioned, I view this as a team award, and boy, how lucky I was to play with such a great bunch of teammates. What a crew we had, I gotta tell you, unbelievable. I see Mr. Titus over there smiling, he knows. Before I'd like to get into thanking them and recognizing some of those guys, I'd like to give you a little background on the beginnings of Beacon hockey, all right? To say we came from humble beginnings would be a huge understatement. Back in the day, back before time, when I was here at UMass Boston, there were no intercollegiate athletics, but we had tremendous intramural programs, very strong intramural programs, and hockey was no exception. We had about 8 or 10 really good teams, and a bunch of us would sit around thinking that, you know, if we got an all-star team here of the intramural league, we could have a great club team and go out and play other schools. So we decided to get a petition and get signatures and try to get the athletic department to sponsor a club team. Myself, Billy O'Donnell, Ricky Joyce, and others started the petition and would regularly get signatures and would just as regularly go to the athletic director's office, Mr. Finnegan at the time, and kind of hound him and ask him if we could have a team. We'd go once a week or so, and you know, he wasn't really warming up too much. So then we started going a couple times a week, just drop by, give him a little jab, what do you think? Then we started going every day, all right? Right around lunchtime, we knew he took his lunch in his office. We'd show him. We kept going there. He showed us by taking lunch at one of the different cafeterias all across the campus in an effort to avoid us. Unbelievable. Somehow, though, we always managed to bump into him at one of these other cafes. He couldn't understand it. What he didn't know, his secretary was a big hockey fan. She really liked us, and she let us know where he was having lunch that day. So there it was. We finally wore him down, and he agreed, and we formed a club team, and we started going out. We started playing games, and we used 2 vans, sometimes 3 if we were lucky, and we played games, and we were awful. All right? We were terrible. It was unbelievable. Prep schools would kick our butts. Bunker Hill Community College owned us, all right? And I think the ultimate down thing that happened was that we actually lost the game to the Mass College of Pharmacy. Really, okay? I mean, it was unbelievable. It finally it got to a point after a while that, you know what? We knew we weren't going to win the games, so we decided that we were going to win the fights, all right? And we did. We won the fights. But no, don't get me wrong now. We weren't beating up any of the prep school, the high school kids. We weren't doing that. We weren't about that. And besides, we couldn't catch up to them anyway. So we had a very fluid roster at that time, too. Very fluid. Guys in, guys out, guys eligible, guys not eligible. Not like the program today. No way. Not like that program that Pete Belisle has right now. A little sidebar on that. What a great job Pete's done with this program. Huh, folks? Awesome job. Ranked 15th this year out of 90 teams in Division III across the country, despite COVID and all that stuff, and not having a team last year. A really excellent job. The other thing Coach Pete has done and the program has done is they always have players on the conference and even the all-NCAA, all-academic teams. That's fantastic. Let me just say that that wasn't the case for the early teams, all right? The original Beacons, nah, that wasn't the case at all. Let's say that had they had such a thing back then, I'm sure that we would have had more of our share of players on the all non-academic teams. And I'll leave it at that. Gradually, things started to change. About halfway through the second year, we started getting better. We had better players, less roster movement, and we started winning. And everyone liked that. And it was a real shot in the arm to us, especially to the guys who had been there since the beginning. Guys like Ricky Green and John Morgan, Kenny White, Jack Dempsey, Joe Casper, Richie Curtin, Kevin McCann, Jojo Stappen, John Gorham, Howie Wright, and we had 2 great goalies back there, Andy Anisimov and Dave Smith. God bless them. They saw so much pucks, it was unbelievable back then. I'm surprised they could walk. The next year, my junior year, we picked up more good players, and Richie Doherty, Keith Moran, Billy Driscoll, and we started winning more games. Now, for me, personally, it was a great year, right? Because I knew all I had to do was get the puck to my two new line mates who could really score, and maybe once in a while I'd luck out and I'd pop one in too. And that happened. I'd get the puck to Jerry O'Connell, to Joe Curran, and bada bing, there it was. I'd get a couple of points. It was a beautiful thing. We ended up 17-7 that year. It was awesome. My final year, my senior year, we got an influx again of some great players and what I'd like to call the fabulous freshmen. Unbelievable team. Led by Tim Hoey, Joe McCafferty, Mark Moran, Joe Bulens, Louis Roberto, Danny Cronin, and Mike Kennedy, just to name a few. We started winning, and the winning increased. And then I realized, you know what? I'm just going to pass the puck and get out of the way, because these guys are really good. And that year was magical. 1982, we finished 24-3. Unbelievable. We were the ECAC champions, a team that couldn't beat prep schools, a team that lost to community colleges, and yes, a team that lost to the Mass College of Pharmacy, was now the Division III champions. And we were beating established Division III programs, we were beating established Division II programs, and yes, indeed, we did beat a Division I program that year. It was fabulous. Just a great, great season. And they didn't have a national tournament back in that year, 1982, and some people say that because of that, we were the 1982 Division III national champs. And who am I to argue with that argument, right? So it's the 40th anniversary of our team, and over the years, you know, we get together and we finish each other's sentences. It's like time has stood still. We all get along so great, and we had just a great, great group of guys. The one thing I learned back then, and I'm constantly reminded now in business and in life, great teams, great businesses, great organizations have great leadership from the top. And things started to go in the right direction for us when Joe Mallon was named head coach. Joe brought along an assistant coach, Jamie Ponchamoli, and he also used the talents of the hockey savant, the hockey guru, Mr. Paul Galvin, to move the program in the right direction. Without question, Joe was the father of Beacon hockey, no doubt in my mind. He brought stability, passion, dedication, and recruited great players to the team. He worked hard behind the scenes to make sure we had the opportunity to excel, and Joe has been a big positive impact in my life and others up until this day included. I can honestly say I played with and have become friends with the guys that are the best in the world. We started out on the ice having each other's back, and we ended up helping each other as well and supporting each other in life to this day. In my case, I've been in constant communication with Jerry O'Connell and Joe Curran, my former line mates. Tim Hoey is one of my best friends in life, and Bill O'Donnell is a big brother to me, no doubt. All these guys have rallied around me when I've needed it. Even though we came from all different backgrounds and different parts of the Boston area, we all stuck together and we remain friends to this day. Now, as I conclude, I have one request. My son Jay, my late son Jay, was a summa cum laude graduate of UMass Boston. Summa cum laude. Awesome. Thank you. He was a bright light who spread friendship, joy, compassion, and love everywhere he went. And my request to you is you go out and you be kind to people tonight, tomorrow, and when you do it, you remember Jay, and you'll be living Jay's way. I want to thank you very much for listening to me today, and I'm very thrilled with this honor. Thank you. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much, Dennis. That was a great walk down memory lane for the history of the hockey program. Dennis is funny. He said, I know that wasn't 3 minutes. I said, hey, who's counting? Right? So, it's your time in the sun. That's great. You and the guys deserve it. So we now turn to the soccer field, where our next honoree eclipsed all others, as she literally rewrote the record book during her incredible 4-year career at UMass Boston. The only All-American in women's soccer history and the only player to be named Little East Conference First Team and Offensive Player of the Year in every year she competed. She led the Beacons to 3 straight Little East Conference titles and the first ever tournament crown in 2012. She was named an academic All-American and All-Region National All-Star, basically all-world. And her 100th career goal and 200th point were featured on SportsCenter. Now, how many people can say that? I think you get the picture. So we are honored to induct Krista Ledin-Gambill into the Hall of Fame class of 2022.
Hello. First, I would like to take a moment to thank UMass and the Hall of Fame committee for hosting this event and also inducting me. I would also like to congratulate the 2022 class inductees. We are all here today because of the hard work, the dedication, the sacrifice, and most importantly, the support we all have around us. When I was thinking of the moment of how I got here today, I remember this story that my mom loves to remind me of, is when she actually took me to my first ever soccer practice, and I cried the whole way there. She shoved me onto the field, and at the end of the day, I loved it, and the rest is history. So it's funny that in that one moment that guided me to where I am today. So I definitely encourage everyone to take risks like this, especially for your children, because they might be thanking you on a stage one day. So if you went to one of our games at UMass Boston, you probably would have noticed my parents. They were not the gossiping type. They kept to themselves. They didn't even stand next to each other. But it just meant that they were truly engaged in watching me in every moment. People would even tell me that they saw my mom and dad kicking the air every time I would be near the goal, like, come on, Krista, shoot it. So, you know, those moments are very special to me. And they drove miles, took time out of their days, and even when they couldn't make it to the games, they were watching it on their laptops. And after the games, they would be calling me and talking about all the misses I made or even the goals I made. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for the time, the miles you drove, the energy you put in, and the support you always gave me. You were truly my #1 fans, so thank you. And now I'd like to thank my brother Ryan and my sister Jamie, who actually played soccer as well. They actually played a huge role into making me the competitor that I am. If you actually play me in cornhole, I'm very competitive. I was actually lucky enough to play with my sister my freshman year of college, and some of those stats that you read about, she was actually a part of. She assisted some of my goals, and I might have even assisted some of hers. So I was very fortunate to play with her. I got to play with her in high school as well. We were very close in age. And yeah, so thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jamie. They continue to support me every day as well. I'd like to take a moment to now thank my coaches, Coach Zombach, Greg, and Coach Dan. They played a huge role and guided me into being the best player that I could be. They also worked with me because I was in the nursing program. I didn't think I was going to be able to play soccer and get a nursing degree at the same time, and they really worked with me and put my athletics first. And there was actually, I'll remember that on a Thursday, I had a 3-hour lecture. It was right in the middle of our practice, and instead of me going to practice, I got to go to practice later, and I got to shoot at big blue dummy objects, and that was not fun because sometimes I would hit them and get yelled at. So, and I'd like to especially thank my coach Greg, because he actually played a huge role in me actually coming to UMass and playing soccer. I worked at the Bridgewater Sports Complex in Bridgewater, and he was actually working there as well, and he came up to me and was like, "Do you think you're gonna play soccer in college?" I'm like, I don't know. He's like, "Well, if you do, you better play soccer the summer before you go." So he took me on to his club team, and I actually met my friend Amanda and Brittany, who later we played in college together. So Coach Greg, he believed in me. He really knew the type of player that I was and the potential that I had. And actually at one point, he told me, he's like, "Krista, Coach Zombach, I don't know if you gotta show her what you got. She doesn't believe me that you're gonna be good enough." And you know, the first game's history, I scored 2 goals, so. And then obviously everyone that supports UMass, like the trainers, Ed, the production staff, Dave and Seth, they're the reasons my parents could watch it at home, and all the live tweets and all of that. And then, of course, my teammates throughout the 2011 and 2014 seasons that made all of this possible. I would not have any of those stats up there if it wasn't for them, and obviously knowing the type of player I was. So, thank you. I'd also like to take a moment to just thank UMass in general. They really gave me the life that I have today, especially the lifelong friendships that I cherish and the memories that will last forever. And hey, I even met my husband here, so. And we have 2 beautiful twin boys that you can go see later if you'd like. So thank you, UMass. Congratulations, everyone. You guys deserve it. So thank you. That's it.
Krista. I didn't want to give that to the Vice Chancellor. He'd start kicking that around, you know. It was a great job, Garrett. And by the way, Dennis, you need to know that Mass College of Pharmacy is being investigated for why they were so good. So, you know, there's an open question there. So when our next honoree was voted into the hall, our committee member and colleague, Ed Perkins, said, "He's not going to be happy." And that speaks volumes about the level of humility with which our next honoree carries himself. That humility, however, belies his enormous contributions to the UMass Boston lacrosse and men's soccer programs, where he was named Coach of the Year in both sports in 2006. In fact, during his career, he was named Coach of the Year 4 times. That's right, 4 times. He has coached an impressive array of All-American, All-Region, and all Little East Conference players. And the word contributor does not even begin to describe his incredible impact on the division on so many levels and just how well respected he is by all of us in this university. And if I go any further, he will never speak to me again. But let's let Myles Berry know how proud we are to induct him into the Hall of Fame class of 2022.
Thank you. Congratulations to all the other inductees. It's a good class. I'd like to thank a few people who were important to me while I was coaching. My wife, Ginny, my son, Myles, for the missed Little League games and grumpy dinners after a loss. We came home early from our honeymoon to go to a soccer tournament. So that's kind of what Ginny puts up with. I'd like to thank my longest-serving assistant coaches, Rick McCann and Billy Ward, for their help, their support, and their company on the bus rides. I'd like to thank Ed Perkins. He was our trainer. He was on the sideline for almost every game I coached, and kind of unbelievable. We even let him make halftime speeches. So, and last and probably most importantly, I'd like to thank every kid that ever played for me. They were why we had the success that we had. They were why it was important, and it was my privilege to coach all of them. So, thank you.
So you have heard our next honoree's name mentioned by Marty, in particular with reverence tonight, and for good reason. Employing his amazing skill as a three-sport athlete, he went on to become one of the most impactful coaches that any player could imagine following. When he took the reins as the head coach of Boston State College in 1975, he became the first African American to coach a college football team in New England since 1904. At Boston State, he was also the director of intramurals, the head coach of women's basketball, assistant wrestling coach, and I think he sold popcorn in the stands sometimes during the games. A dynamic and inspiring person, he molded a group of guys from different neighborhoods into a band of brothers at a time when very high barriers existed between people of different colors and backgrounds in this city. It was not a pleasant time, to put it mildly. And in a Boston Globe feature article by Bob Holler, Billy Joyce summed it up best when he simply said, "We love the guy." So with that, I would like to ask Richie Young and Bill Joyce to escort Mac's daughters, Becky and Michelle, to the stage as we proudly induct Mac Singleton into the UMass Boston Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2022.
First and foremost, I know I was only given a little bit of time, so I'm going to do my best to keep it in those 3 minutes. But I want to, first of all, thank Kevin Mccluskey and Dr. Schumann. What a fantastic job they have done to coordinate this, work with us to make this happen tonight. Congratulations to all of the new inductees. I'm really proud of you. And if my dad was here, he'd say, good job, you did it. So thank you. I'm here tonight with our family. I'm Becky Singleton. I am the oldest of Mac Singleton's children. My sister, Michelle Stevenson. I also have a sister, Diana Singleton, who is Dr. Diana Singleton. She went to UMass Boston. And we have Mac Singleton and Andrew Singleton. They're here today. Will you stand up? All super athletes, by the way. All of us were super athletes. I do want to make note of my stepmom. We lost our dad in 2017. Debbie also went to Boston State. That's where my dad met her. Debbie, will you stand up? So we're really happy to have our families here. Michelle's here with her family, my niece Alexis, and my brother-in-law Kenny. And I think that's important that you know our family is Team Dad, because my dad was a girl dad before the boys came. There was, I heard a lot of that when Colby passed away. He was a girl dad. And I looked at Michelle, I was like, are you kidding? Our dad was a girl dad. And I'm going to piggyback on something that Martin said about the gentleman who drove his car into the gate. We didn't do anything like that. But he did torture us when we were running and running. He goes, just stop when the white line, when there's no more white line. And we'd be running and running and running, and to the point where we had to pass out. Otherwise, he'd keep us running. Because he did promise us dinner. So that was our incentive to keep running. But most importantly for us, as his children, and to watch him with you, his former players, we were with you. I remember you guys when we were young. We were at Boston State, in the gym, in his office, giving you guys your coaching. We were there. So I remember, I know you remember, we spent a lot of time at Boston State, a lot. But we loved it, because we wanted to be with our dad. We were around the athletics, and it absorbed into us. All of us, every single one of us, has played major sports. I actually have a 16-year-old daughter who is now tracking for the Olympics in swimming. She's one of the very few African-American girls with that ability to be able to win. She's 5 seconds at 16 years old off of her Olympic trial time. What I always say is my dad was the boulder, and we were the pebbles off that stone. It bled down, but he just extended that to you guys, the players. You fell in love with him. Why? Because he made you work. He made you believe that you were more than what you thought you were going to be. You thought, I can only run 3 laps. No, you can run 20. But you didn't know that until he gave you no choice but to do 20, because you weren't leaving. It's really important for all of us to realize we extended ourselves out more because we were pushed past our limit. You learned what you were really about because he pushed you. He pushed all of us. We were included. I always laugh because my dad would not allow us to play sports with girls. We had to play basketball with the boys. And he would be like, hey, we'll see you back. I'll come back and get you. And we'd be looking at him like, what? in the hood, and we were like, okay, but guess what? It elevated our game up, and it elevated us as young women that we can do anything you guys can do. I never once in my personal and professional career ever felt like there's nothing I can't do. I don't see obstacles, I don't see challenges. I'm like, yeah, bring it on. We got this, because that's what he installed. And that's what he's installed in all of you that played for him. Am I right? Yeah, there's nothing you can't do. That's what made Dad such a great coach, because he made you believe you were more than what you looked like in the mirror. And it didn't matter. He instilled in us that color was not an issue, that you don't look at people for the color of their skin, you look at the person who treats you the way you treat them. And you treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Thank you so much. But that was one of the main reasons back in the 70s when things were really hard. I remember at home listening to him talking about the problems and what needed to happen to bring us all together. And he did it through sports. He did it in a way that you didn't see each other's color. He did it in a way that you believed anything is possible. And he came from a place where he was born in South Carolina, Sumter, South Carolina, where there was Jim Crow laws. He wasn't available to do certain things. And my grandparents were smart enough to get up north to give him a chance, and his brothers and sisters. Because of that, my dad got to excel. I spoke to one of his former college classmates yesterday, Willie Barron. He and Willie grew up together, went to college together in Western State, Colorado, and they were like two peas in a pod. Do you know what he told me about my dad? He goes, you know your dad had a back problem? No. He said he had a back problem, but it didn't stop him from being able to do what he did. He was multi-talented and faceted, is the words he used. Dad ran the Boston Marathon at least 4 or 5 times, so much that it really got into me. If my dad can run the marathon, I'm going to run the Boston Marathon. He did that type of inspirationalness to all of us. But even his old teammates, his older players that played for him, till this day feel the same way. They loved him. We loved him. Even though sometimes we'd be mad at you guys because we were hungry and you guys wanted to talk to him and we wanted to go and eat, we had to sit there politely because like the kid that ran into that fence, he'd be making us do something if we were nagging him about eating. We had to stay and allow him to be who you needed him from him. So we understand today, but as kids, we didn't really understand that. So I want to thank, again, all of the people associated tonight with this prestigious honor. They have a fund. I don't know if you noticed there's tickets on your table. Please take one of those home and give that to somebody who wants to make this program at UMass the best ever, because they need the financial support. And being a female athlete and watching my female athlete, who on June 15th gets to be recruited by Division I and Division II schools, I understand how important Title IX is to her. It wasn't available to me because I'm the older one of the group. So I didn't have that. But that will help young athletes. We have a fund that is going to help young athletes, female athletes, get scholarships to be able to do what it is they want to do. I'm so proud of all the honorees, but I was very impressed. Those that had to work and play sports, and they excelled. We have to make it a little bit easier for these athletes because what they gain from being an athlete is only going to capitalize in their professional life for other people. Don't forget, Michelle said, cheer for one of those athletes. She's a big supporter of my daughter who swims. And I appreciate that all the time, because I can't be the only one that says, go Jay, go Jay. You know, we have to support our athletes. Please take those cards home. Consider giving a donation, considering spreading the word to make this UMass program the best ever, because everybody deserves a chance not to worry about paying for their education all the time. Okay, so I thank you tonight on behalf of a Singleton crew. Thank you for this beautiful honor, and we really appreciate all of you for coming out tonight and listening to all of us, so thank you so much.
Okay, so just like TMZ and Twitter, she leaked our announcement. So tonight we do have a special announcement to make. Because of the legacy of Mac Singleton and the generosity of his daughters, Becky and Michelle, who have become great friends to us and our program, today we have the fortune to announce the establishment of only the second endowment in the history of athletics through the Mac Singleton Endowment. The Mac Singleton Endowment is being established in honor of Coach Mac to support the funding of women's athletics programs. As only Michelle and Becky can explain so well, and I think Becky did explain so well, Mac shaped who they are as women today. He understood the importance of equity. He did what he could to give girls the ability to try to compete in sports, even if that meant giving them a head start. Do we have this example? In fact, we have an example of what that looked like from when they were kids. Is that coming up? Yeah. Okay, so this note here shows the upset from the boys in 6th grade who didn't understand why Mac would give the girls a head start. It reads as such, might be hard for you to read, Mr. Singleton, I want you to give the boys a point sometime. Please change that rule. Like you are, for instance, you always give the girls a head start. Please change those rules. By Rob, Mike, Joe, Mark, Bobby. Are any of you in the room this evening? So this is obviously something that is pretty funny and hilarious to read, but we also know that with Title IX legislation only coming into play 50 years ago, that as we've heard a lot today, while progress has been made, there is still much work to do to enhance equitable experiences for all women. And because we have been behind for so long, sometimes, as Coach Mac understood, that means giving us a head start. What Michelle and Becky have done to establish an endowment to support women's athletics helps begin to build the resources to ensure our women's teams always have that support. These two women have been so gracious to establish this endowment, starting at $50,000 to support our women's teams and honor the legacy of their father and his impact on so many people, and especially them as a girl dad. I'd like Michelle to say a few words about this gift and what it means to them, and then we could talk a little bit about the QR codes on your table.
So thank you, and I do want to acknowledge, I know we mentioned our siblings who are in the audience. We do have another sibling that couldn't make it tonight. His name is Alan, and I do want to make sure that we know and we mention that he is also here in spirit. One of the things about the inspiration about starting this endowment had a lot to do with we have a lot of jokes and stories about our dad, about coaching. But I want to share something that not a lot of people often knew about. And he did it in such a quiet way. And this is one that landed and it resonates with me still to this day, but he pulled over the car one day. There was someone on the side of the road, and he didn't have any shoes on. My dad got out of the car, he took his shoes off, and he gave it to this person that was on the side of the road. And I just remember going, what are you doing? No, you don't have any shoes. He got back in the car with his socks on, and he said, I have tons of shoes at home. I'll be okay. And I sat and processed. I think as an adult, I still like, what, who does that? Who gives like the shirt off their back? And it wasn't just his shoes. It was the shirt off his back. It was, and during the holidays, he would create little fruit basket bags, and some of you may have been recipients of that, but he would go and start dropping off gifts and just in a quiet way. He never wanted any attention or acknowledgement for doing it, and that meant a lot. And I think with the establishment of this endowment, I just can imagine him smiling down and going, yeah. But he'd be going, why are you talking about it? Just do it. Right? So that was really the inspiration behind it, was to give back just a tiny bit of what he gave to all of us, and also to support his legacy of always putting, the underdog, lifting up the underdog. And it happened to be, we benefited from that as female athletes, and we want to continue that legacy for him in his name here at UMass Boston. So thank you.
So as we close out on obviously this really important conversation, we would love if any of you would be willing to help us grow the endowment. Any gift is a gift that's important. And so we've left QR codes on the table. If you so choose to do so, you can scan it. If technology is not your thing, Dave Marsters is in the back of the room, and he'd be happy to help you if you want to give a contribution. Thank you again to Michelle and Becky for your support of the legacy of women's sports here at UMass Boston, and to Mac Singleton for all he has done to build that legacy for the Boston State College Warriors and UMass Boston Beacons.
I want to leave off with one thing. You guys at UMass are the luckiest people I know. With your athletic director here, she's outstanding in so many ways. I hope you get to know who she is, because I've been experiencing her for the last year, and I'm telling you, you guys lucked out. So congratulations on that.
Okay, so a few thank yous before we close out the ceremony, and then I would like to say a few remarks. So first, I'd like everybody to thank Kevin, our Master of Ceremonies, for his efforts today. I'd like to thank our administrative team that has been here working the event today: Dave Marsters, Gamal Abiona, Megan Cullinane, Stephanie Dollar. We'd like to give them a round of applause. The event definitely takes a team, and they've been working really hard to make this happen today. And I'd like to, as we wrap up, reflect on some of the important words and stories that we heard from the honorees tonight. When I think about sports and I think about college athletics, it's such a formative experience for student athletes. And it's such a formative experience for the coaches that also get to come along the way with those student athletes. And so it really is one of the greatest jobs that you can have, to coach and to work in a college athletic department and in higher education, because you get the opportunity to shape lives every single day. And today we got to hear of all of the ways that those lives have been shaped, or that coaches have shaped those lives. So Myles, obviously one of our own in our department today, talked a lot about what we know in sports, which is a lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle for you to go on your honeymoon and then say, hey, babe, I gotta come home early for a soccer game. I hope that's okay. And that is part of what comes with the job when you work in college athletics and you're a coach. It's something you do all the time, and as Myles said, the thing that matters to you most is every single kid's life that you impact. We heard Dennis Doherty talk of the story of the history of the making of a program and all the persistence that it takes to go from what might not have been a program to maybe doing some different things to try to convince people to make it a program, to making it a program that is kind of mediocre to making it the championship program that it is today. We heard Marty Doto talk of the stories of running the car through the fence, which we enjoyed, but we also heard what happened from that, which is the punishment, and that punishment of those athletes having to actually have consequences for what they did leads to the discipline that we know that our student athletes learn through their sports. Krista talked about her first ever soccer practice that she cried at and how it was really important she went because it ended up changing her life and being the sport that she loved. I relate. I remember falling on the track, which was a dirt track, scraping my leg up, bleeding all over the place, quitting track, only to return because I really wanted that cool track jacket, and then becoming someone who also loved the sport of track and continues to love it to this day. So those things that we do to try to get through that builds the resilience through sports to help to build the character of who we become and who we are in this world and who we become to other people as well. We heard Shannon talk about the impact of coaches and teammates, and we get to be proud of someone like Shannon, who is now a coach, teaching those same lessons to her students as well. And of course, we just got to hear so much from Coach Mac and all that he did to push people to their limits, beyond the limits of what people thought they could do, because that's what coaches do, and that's the impact of sports. And finally, we heard from the UMass Boston women's track and field team from 1987, and Sherman say, despite the lack of resources, they never complained, they just showed up. And they showed up to the point that they won national championships. I think that sports is one of the most beautiful things that we can be a part of in our society. And I'm so proud to have been a part of this induction ceremony today to hear all of the stories of what we know is so important about sports to all of our worlds and to a higher education institution like UMass Boston. So thank you to everybody. And I'd like to ask our new class of Hall of Fame inductees to rise now, to all stand collectively to be recognized. Thank you again for being with us here tonight and for your support for the Warriors and Beacons and for being a part of our family at UMass Boston. As we close the evening, I'd like to ask two things. One, track inductees, we have all of your awards. And two, we'd like to ask all Hall of Fame induction honorees to come to the stage for photos as this concludes this evening's events. Thank you, everybody, and good night.